Welcome to Hired the Podcast. I'm Travis Miller. As always, today I am joined by the wonderful Therese Gopaul-Robinson. Therese is a healthcare consultant, keynote speaker, overall fantastic human being and trainer. She's got over 20 years of experience in healthcare, a lot of that in leadership, self-proclaimed a lot of failure in that leadership, which I know we'll talk about a little bit, but she really works with companies, with leaders, with new leaders to help them, those who are struggling with imposter syndrome, self-doubt, and helping companies really establish a culture of strong and supportive leadership. And I was actually thinking of you yesterday, Therese. And first of all, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Travis. This is exciting. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. And I was thinking of you yesterday because of what we talked about a few weeks ago. We actually had Mike Weinberg come out to visit us. I don't know if you know Mike Weinberg at all.
No.
Sales trainer and author. And he's got a new book coming out that he gave me an advance copy of. I was very excited about it, called The First Time Manager. And in it, he says, and I think you can take the word sales out of this sentence from the book. So he says, all the sales training in the world will not make a significant impact on sales results and the culture required to sustain those results in the long term if you do not get the big sales management things right. And if you take the word sales out of that, you can't create a culture of success if you don't get the right leadership in place. And so I was thinking of you when he was talking, especially when I read that sentence.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's something that I see consistently with virtually every client that I work with now. And I was an example of at times maybe not being, I won't say being the right leader, but not getting the support that I needed and the development that I needed to be the right leader. So I love that statement. That's awesome. That's 100% accurate.
I think that's such a huge piece of why so many new leaders fail is because there's a person doing job A and they're very good at job A. They've got sustained success in it. They're really doing well. And their leaders say, that person's doing great at job A. Why don't we have them lead a team of other people doing job A? Go with God, you're promoted. Now teach people to do job A and manage them and coach them to do it well. But we're not going to manage you or coach you or teach you or lead you to be the leader of others.
Yep. So I could say so much about that. But I think we take folks who are great as individual contributors, and there's this assumption that because you're great at job A, you will be great leading a team of folks doing job A. But there's a few things that we forget when we look at promoting folks from within. And I'm a huge advocate for promoting from within for sure. But there's a few things that we miss at times. And the first thing is, well, does this individual contributor even want leadership? Have we asked? Have we said, there's this opportunity. We think you would be great at this. Is this something you want? And if the answer is yes, then we need to ask, why? Why is this something you want? Because a lot of times, sometimes folks are just really happy being fantastic individual contributors. The other thing is when we transition from team member to team leader, we're no longer in 100% control of our success. We're now responsible for people, for this community of different personalities, different motivations, different expectations. There's all this stuff that goes into it. And as organizations, a lot of times we forget that those individual rock star contributors need development and support as they transition into leadership. And so the same skills that make you a great individual contributor may not align with making you a great leader. You see that a lot in, like, for you would probably really connect with this, but in recruiting. So the skills that make you a phenomenal, like, top-notch recruiter may not be the same skills needed to lead a team of high-performing recruiters. Because as recruiters, it's, you're very, very, focused on specific things, specific tasks. You know your desk, you know how to turn things over, you know how to convert. But being a leader, it's very different. And so I think when we promote from within, if we don't give those individual contributors the support that they need to be fantastic leaders, we're setting them up for failure. And if we don't even ask if they want this, then we're setting them up for failure for sure.
It's such a different mindset. And I think of it, unfortunately, I think of it mostly through a sales lens. Sure. But when someone is great at sales, they are solely responsible for themselves. They eat what they kill, for lack of a better term. But being a sales leader, particularly if you're still responsible for sales yourself and managing others, that's got to be one of the most difficult and challenging jobs on the planet, because you have two very important responsibilities, and how do you figure out which is the primary responsibility, for you to produce or for you to get others to produce, to develop others? And it's just such a different mindset. You've had to be selfish when you are an individual level contributor, because you are the only one contributing.
That's right.
But leading a team and getting others to contribute, it's got to be challenging to shift that mindset.
Well, and what I'll say to Travis is that it's not just sales, it's any individual contributor role. I am not from a sales background. I come from compliance, quality, risk management, credentialing, and it's the same mindset. I ran my desk, and might I say, I was fantastic at it. But it was all about me and the clinicians that I worked with. And that was my priority, and I had 100% control of my desk. So I think any individual contributor can make that statement. I eat what I kill, essentially. That being said, how do you shift? Well, it goes back to the level of support that you have as a transitioning leader. Because, for instance, me, I wanted leadership. I was that person that I was connected to the organization. I was like, I was bought in. I was all in with the mission, the values, all of it. I had the ambition, I had the passion, but what was missing was, I didn't have some of the basic skills. And so it's not just the mindset shift, but it is even knowing that you need a mindset shift. Like, I don't know what I don't know. So you saying that I need to have a mindset shift, that wasn't even a thing that even was a thing, because I just thought, okay, I know how to do this job. I'm going to teach you how to do this job. So now just go along and do this job. And, I don't want to hear the complaining, because I never complained. I don't want to hear your drama, because keep that at home. I didn't have the soft skills needed to be the leader that I could have been kind of sooner rather than later. And so the mindset shift, I think, is something that we have to actually talk about. We have to actually say, Travis, congratulations on this new leadership role. Gosh, we're so proud of you, and we're so excited to see what you can do. But this is going to require that your perspective and the way that you approach certain things shift a little bit, because of the fact that, you're now transitioning into this role where you have to manage, lead folks, and get them to deliver as you did as an individual contributor, while also meeting certain expectations of your role as a leader. Because it's not just about your team members and how they deliver, but there's certain things that you're accountable for. And so what we're going to do, Travis, is, as we help support you and help you kind of shift that perspective, we're going to talk a lot about how you as a leader, where you fit in this big picture, right? Because there's this huge picture, there's all these organizational goals, and we have all these things going on, but how do you as a leader, what is your power here? And how do you have the ability to impact the organization as a leader and as a leader of a team of individual contributors. So there just has to be more conversation. There shouldn't just be this assumption that because Travis was great, that he'll just be great. He has the potential for sure, but we need to guide him there and challenge his thinking and challenge his mind.
So there's that conversation about shifting mindset and talking about a new leader's place in the development of the company. But tactically speaking, when you were a new leader, what do you wish that your organization had done for you in terms of not only shifting the mindset, but specific training, specific development that you think would have set you up for better success when you were first starting out?
Oh, those are easy. Goal setting, difficult conversations, and I hate to say it this way, but growing from building my emotional intelligence muscle. I guess that's the best way to say it.
What do you mean by that?
So, well, because I have always been a hard worker. I am like the scrappy, I will do whatever it takes kind of, person. And I just expected that everybody would be like that. And if you weren't like that, then I had like little to no tolerance for you. I just had this expectation that you're here, you chose to be here, so do your job, get it done, and we'll be fine. And so if you're not meeting expectations or whatever, I automatically went from a negative kind of non-empathetic perspective of like, I don't understand, just get your job done. I don't know, why can't you just get to goal here? Mm-hmm. Versus actually kind of pulling back a little bit and maybe looking at that person as an individual, looking at that person's background. It's not just about the training and all this other jazz, but what are some of the individual challenges that they might be having that are blockers for them getting to goal? And so goal setting was a big one for me. I wish someone had just guided me a little bit more in terms of, well, how do you create performance metrics? And, how do those even connect to the bigger picture? And difficult conversations. And when I say difficult conversations, when people hear that term, they normally think, uh-oh, you're about to write someone up, or uh-oh, you're about to fire someone. But yeah, those are difficult conversations. But what about, just the daily things that you encounter as a leader? So here are some things that I always, in some of my coaching classes, I always say, okay, well, you have an employee and they're doing really well, but other employees are complaining about the fact that there's a certain odor coming from them. Handle it. And normally that is one that everyone just has just all kinds of panic and anxiety about, right? But those things, right? So there's a certain skill that comes with having difficult conversations. And, I always approach difficult conversations as just do what I say and we'll be fine. When in fact, the approach to difficult conversations is, well, number one, your goal is, you have two goals with difficult conversations. The first one is to change behavior, right? You're having this conversation because something needs to change, whatever it is, right? But the second goal, and probably the most important goal, is you want to save that relationship. You want to walk away from that conversation with a relationship still intact or better. You don't want to cause further divide between you and that person, or between that person and the team. And so I really wish someone would have done some sort of training or something, or given me a book or something that gave me some guidance in terms of, well, how do you prepare for a difficult conversation? What is the goal of a difficult conversation? How do I follow up? How do I interact physically with this human as I'm having this difficult conversation? And then for me specifically, who I am not, it's funny, right? Because I say that I'm like, just do what I say and it's fine. But I'm also not very confrontational. Mm-hmm. And so the moment I get into any kind of tough conversations, I struggle. The first time I had to terminate someone, it took 5 hours. And that's the truth. It took me 5 hours, and it only ended because she got up, slammed stuff on the desk, slammed the door, left, and I was in tears. That was my first termination. So it would have been great if someone had kind of maybe coached me a little bit and helped walk me through some of the steps of the difficult conversation. So, like I said, for me, it would definitely be goal setting, having difficult conversations, and then leading more empathetically and really focusing on my emotional intelligence.
I got to ask, how did you handle the person that people were complaining about because they smelled bad?
Yeah. So, the first thing I always say is you have to lead with the positive first. So, Travis, gosh, thank you so much for coming in and having a conversation with me. First of all, I wouldn't have it in my office. I would say, Travis, let's go down to the cafeteria or whatever and grab a cup of coffee, right? And I would say, Travis, first off, I think you're doing so great, and I want you to know that you're just such a huge player on this team, and I really appreciate that. And then I would get very close to Travis, right? So I would make some sort of physical contact, because if I'm getting ready to talk about something like body odor or something that's, I want to make physical contact. And so I would just say, Travis, so this is going to be a difficult conversation. It's certainly not one that I want to have, but I definitely think it's one that we need to have because of the fact that, my biggest concern is making sure that you're comfortable in your work environment and, everyone is comfortable. And so I've received some feedback that lately, there's been something happening in terms of maybe your body in terms of the smell, or there's something going on there, right? And I'll say, I get it. This is not fun, right? But it's one that we need to have because, I want you to be aware of what's happening around you. And then Travis might say something like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know, or oh my gosh, I started taking these like herbal supplements and they're like totally, whatever, right? But we would have that conversation, and Travis would probably feel completely embarrassed, but I would stay in very close proximity and I would just say, hey, it's fine. I wanted you to be aware that these things are happening around you, and maybe you weren't aware of it. It happens, right? But this in no way, is obviously is a reflection of who you are and who you are to me as a team member. And, I just wanted you to be aware. And, it'll be awkward at first or whatever. And then I'd be like, all right, what do you want off the menu? And then we kind of carry on with our things. So I think when you're having those conversations that are very personal and can be really uncomfortable, try not to do it in your office if you can. Take a walk, or, hey, I need to go grab something from whatever, come help me, or whatever. Kind of move away from the office, because the moment someone steps into your office, there's this power dynamic happening, right? I'm in charge and I'm over you, and you come to me and I look down on you. And so I would say, let's go and have that conversation elsewhere. And I keep it very light and easy. I stay connected. I try to make physical contact, because if you're talking about bad breath or odor or something, physical, people may feel some shame. And so you making physical contact or being close enough to that person, it tells them that, it's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's okay, and we can talk through it. So that's how I would handle the bad odor conversation.
They don't really cover topics like that in business school very often, do they?
Well, they don't. No, they do not.
Which I wonder how many other things are there out there like that are maybe not daily occurrences in a leader's life, but there are things that are very normal nobody ever talks about when they're teaching you or training you or coaching you for prospective leadership.
Yeah. I mean, how do you deal with like these two types of employees? How do you deal with the employee that, on paper, they're amazing. Your clients love them. They are rock stars on paper. They're hitting all the metrics, but they have just really terrible behavior, and they've isolated other folks on the team. And, and it's really impacting the culture of your team. Like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the person that, is all about the team? They're 100% bought in, engaged. They try so hard. They're there early. They stay late, but they're struggling to meet the expectations of the job. Like, how do you deal with those things? So those are all things that obviously you cannot think of every single scenario when you're, doing some sort of development program, but you can certainly hit some high things. And it's not so much about the situation. It's about, well, how did we get here? Why do I feel like I need to have this conversation? What's the goal of the conversation? How do I plan and prepare? What am I saying during that conversation? What are we both taking away after the conversation? And how do I follow up if needed? Mm-hmm. And then you can really kind of plug and play depending on what the situation is. And anytime I have conversations with employees or now with my clients and helping coach the leaders through difficult conversations, I do believe in a certain level of vulnerability. And, there's these words now, right? Authenticity and vulnerability. But for me, I've always kind of came from that perspective because I think I'm a person, you're a person, we all have our things, and so when I'm having conversations with you, I try to just be me, as if I'm sitting down talking to a friend and I'm having a difficult conversation with them, but I would prepare ahead of time. I think a lot of times we jump into these conversations, especially if we have an executive leader that's like, Travis, you got to take care of this right now. Like, I don't want to get another complaint. And Travis is like, oh, okay, all right, I'm going to do it right now. And Travis calls Therese into the office to give her a what for about whatever. But he has no plan, no specific goal other than she's got to fix it, no way to follow up, and no recommendations for coaching her through the problem. So I think those are things that we should be talking more about for sure.
I think a lot of it goes back to one thing you mentioned earlier, and that's empathy. And when you are an individual contributor, you are primarily focused on yourself for good reason.
Yeah.
How do you train somebody to be empathetic to people that are now counting on them to lead?
So I think, I think it's two things. I think I have to look at what they brought to the table. So are you generally an empathetic person? Are you, because I can't teach you empathy, right? I can teach you self-awareness, and I can teach you to be more open and connected to the people around you, but I can't teach you empathy. That's something you either bring to the table or you don't. But in coaching, emerging leaders or current leaders in terms of, being more self-aware or being more connected to their teams, the first thing I always ask is, tell me about a leader who you admire or who you are very connected to, or who took some time to coach you or have certain conversations with you. I can guarantee you probably 100% of the time, someone can think of someone, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's in the workplace, in church, or whatever, right? Everyone can think of someone. And so then, I start there and I say, okay, talk to me about what that conversation was. Talk to me about what that made you feel like in that moment. Why do you admire this person? Why is this person a mentor for you or what have you? And then the other question I ask is, are you displaying any of the traits in your own leadership with your own teams that you admire in this human being? A lot of times they'll say no. So I say, okay, let's start there. You've got to be the mentor and leader that you had, right? You've got to be that to other people. And you have to realize that everybody is here for a reason. Everyone deserves to be here, right? And you as a leader, your goal is to make things, this is my opinion, your goal is to make things as easy as possible for your team. So your goal is to break down barriers, remove the challenges to allow things to happen for your team and allow your team to be successful. So when I think about empathy, I think, I always circle back to, are you displaying the same traits as a leader as this person that you admired? If the answer is no, that's okay. We have some work to do, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about why you think you're struggling with empathy, or why do you think you're struggling to connect with your team and lead, lead your team. This will lead to some really great conversations about self-awareness. What I found with a lot of leaders is that if they're struggling as leaders, and I'm a great example of this, if they're struggling as leaders, 9 times out of 10, it's because they are struggling with their own self-esteem issues, their own feelings of unworthiness, their own feelings of being the imposter. And they're probably intimidated by the folks that they lead, believe it or not. And so, when we have those conversations, it leads to so many other big conversations. But self-awareness, when it comes to empathy, it's all about self-awareness and trying to be open to the folks that you are leading, and try to connect with the certain skills that you wish you had, that maybe a mentor or somebody that you admire had when you were coming up.
So you said that empathy isn't something that you can teach, and I'm sure there are other skills that you can't teach. You can help bring them out of people, but if they're not already in there, then it's a lost cause.
Right.
What should companies, what should current leaders be doing? What questions should they be asking? What behaviors should they be observing to identify the people that have the greatest potential to be successful future leaders in their organization?
Yeah. So some of the questions. So I love the, tell me about a time type questions. But I love people telling me stories about the things that they are most proud of. And that sounds kind of silly, but you can learn a lot about someone when they tell you stories about the things that they're like really the most proud of. It doesn't have to be in their career. It could just be in life in general. But I would ask them, tell me about a couple of things that you're like super proud of. And how did you get there? And why does this make you so proud? And that sort of thing. And the things that I'm looking for are, the things that they're proud of. Was it connected to other people? Was it service oriented? Was it, those are the things that I'm looking for when I'm having conversations with people, to determine whether or not, kind of where their empathy level is, or, if they would really be a leader that could be connected to their team. So I would ask, tell me some things that you're really proud of. It doesn't have to be in the workplace. It could be wherever, but those are the two things that I'm looking for. Is it service oriented, and is it connected in some way to other people? Because those are the tiny little things, the sprinkling of things that can help you kind of determine, well, how would this person come in and lead others? Because a big part of leadership is serving others. A big part of leadership is figuring out how to be a part of a bigger community.
Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned that you knew that leadership was something you wanted in your organization. And a lot of times companies, I think we talked about it earlier, they put people in leadership positions because they were good at doing the job, but they don't ask if they wanted it. And it's not I don't think it's very often an easy question to answer. It's been so ingrained in us that if you're successful at something, you should go into leadership because that's the next logical step. But
that's the next step.
But it isn't always, it shouldn't always be that way. What can a person look at in themselves to identify if leadership is something that they want and something that they think they have the potential to be good at?
Yeah. So I think the first question is, am I happy where I am right now? That's the first question. Like, is it checking all of the internal, boxes? So am I happy where I am right now? Like, is this my dream? Is this, this is my jam? Like, this is what I love doing. That's the first question. And then the next question is, well, what does the future look like for me? Do I see me doing what I'm doing right now, but just like on a bigger scale with a bigger desk, or that sort of thing. And then I would ask myself, all right, well, I don't know, like if I'm doing leadership, why would I want to do leadership? Am I doing leadership because, and so these are questions that people will never actually probably answer in
Mm-hmm.
public, but, am I doing leadership because I just really want more of this? I want more accolades. I want more awards. I want more bragging rights. Like I want to be like, yeah, I did that, you know? Um, if the answer is yes, then leadership might not be right for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you are thinking about leadership and you're thinking about leadership because, gosh, I love seeing when people get it. I love seeing when people go from one level to the next and I in some way contributed to that. I love seeing people grow beyond their expectations. I love seeing, people become successful. Then leadership might be for you. It might be your thing. Um, and so those are some of the questions that I think we need to ask ourselves when it comes to leadership. To your point, a lot of times leadership is just the next phase. And a lot of times we take it because, well, it means more money and, a sexier title. And now I get to like put that on LinkedIn and on my resume and I have all the accolades. But that is not what leadership is, and so you have to really dig deep to determine if there's a leadership role in front of me right now and I can potentially take it, why would I even consider it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because of the accolades, or is it because I get to be, I'm just excited about the fact that I get to work with some really cool people, and gosh, there might be people struggling and I might be able to get them from struggling to excelling and seeing them grow and seeing all the things that they do for the team, but also as individuals. So I think those are those are the questions you have to ask yourself. Like, am I happy where I am? And is it that I just need some more money? Because if I just need some more money, then maybe we can work something out, right?
Yep.
Or am I looking to leadership? And if I am, what are the reasons? Is it all about me, or is it all about being part of a community and helping that community grow?
Mm-hmm. I wanted to solicit your advice for people out there who are not leaders yet and might never be leaders. But as they're searching for new opportunities, as they're searching for new organizations, what can they look for to identify who those great leaders are? Because there's a lot of bad ones out there.
Yeah. So if I'm looking for a leadership position,
not necessarily looking for a leadership position, just looking for any position, but you want to make sure that the person who's going to be leading you, the person who's going to be your manager, your boss, whatever you want to call it, how do you identify if that person is a person that is worth being led by?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. So I think it's, there's only so much that you can do in an interview. So I think it's worth it to do your research ahead of time, right? So, obviously researching the organization, but then you may not know who your hiring manager is before you get in front of the actual person during the interview. And so during the actual interview, what you want to look for is, well, a couple of things. Have they done the work?
Mm-hmm.
Number one. I don't care so much about degrees and all that jazz. I don't really care about that stuff. But have they done the work? And are they cheering their current people on? And are they just talking so much about like how great the team is and and they're maybe even calling out certain names or what have you? Like, are they demonstrating a high level of enthusiasm about the people who they currently are leading? So have they done the work? Are they demonstrating a high level of enthusiasm about the people who they're currently leading? And then the other thing is, I want to see the questions that they're going to ask me. And so, are they talking to me as if, they're my boss, my future boss? Or are they talking to me as colleagues? Are they just kind of having a conversation with me about, like, I don't know, let's say if I'm applying for a credentialing job, are they kind of talking to me as if I'm a colleague, or are they talking to me as a potential, person that they're going to look down on? So are they asking certain questions that they would look to me as the expert? So, oh my gosh, so happy that you're here. And so did you, do you know a lot about the Joint Commission? Oh, you do. Oh, did you see that new article that came out? And, what are your thoughts on that? And now we can have like this whole like debate and have this whole conversation. So I would look to see, have they done the work? Are they highly enthusiastic about their team? Like, are they bragging? Like, and I love that. I think if a leader is in an interview with a potential new employee, if they are just like, listen, I am so happy that you're here because, I think you might be a really great fit for the team. This team has been together for the last 3 years. Man, we got through COVID. We did this, we did that, we did, and we're just like, so, and you can just feel that energy. That is a huge, like, can you hire me now moment. And then also the way that they're talking to me. Are they talking to me as a colleague, or are they talking to me as just a future person that they get to tell what to do? So those are the three things I would look for if I'm interviewing and I'm looking to see, like, I wonder if Travis will be a good leader for me. And then also too, I always hope that my potential leader will ask me this one question, and that is, what are your expectations of me as your leader? I love when a potential leader asks me that question. So what are your expectations of me as your leader? Because that tells me that they actually, they care about their role as a leader, and it's important to them that, they bring someone on the team that, would be a good fit, but also a good connection. It's like dating, that's basically what it is. So those would be the things that I would look for.
No, that's a great question. Therese, this has been fantastic. Who is your ideal client? Who are the people that should be reaching out to you, and what are you going to be able to help them with?
Sure. So I primarily work in the healthcare staffing space. And so I work with healthcare staffing organizations that are either, number one, they're doing well, but they're looking to level up. Maybe they're looking to gain some sort of certification, and I can help walk them through that process. Or number two, they're struggling. Maybe they're struggling with customer satisfaction or something, and they're just not quite sure where it's broken. And so I will work with them to kind of go through the different levels of the organizations to just determine where it's broken. So I work primarily with healthcare staffing organizations in those two areas. And then I also work with leaders. So I do some leadership coaching, I do some classes, and I work with folks who are either emerging leaders, or transitioning in some way into some sort of a leadership development, leadership position. And I work with them, but I work with folks who, can I just say it? I work with folks who think they suck. I'm just going to say it. And so what we do is we really, really, really dig into, well, why do you feel that you're not having, you're struggling right now as a leader? And we dig into some of the reasons why. So it goes right back to, what baggage did I bring to this role as a leader, and how we can actually unpack all of that stuff to get you to a place where you can lead more effectively. So those are the things that I offer, either to individuals or organizations. A very in-depth, robust leadership, don't suck anymore program.
Well, here's to you helping as many people as you can not suck anymore. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So you can reach me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Therese Gopaul-Robinson. I'm also on Instagram as well, or you can join my newsletter, and that is, you can get that through my website, which is Therese, Therese gr.com.
Therese, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate all of the advice you gave me in helping me suck a little bit less. This has been Hire the Podcast. Big thank you to Therese and to Noah Cuff, our producer. And I'll talk to you all soon.